Yeah, you heard the bio. Worked in the dark side for a long time, the media business. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. At least I joked that was my time there. And through that, I got to work with huge companies all over the United States, the biggest, and get to see what they do great and what they don't do so great. And somewhere I had the crazy idea, well, I can do it. If those guys can do it, I can do it. And we started On Target. Now, today, these were the things that I said I hoped you walked out of here with. And I'm going to try and do my best to get through it all and get you most of them. The reality check is we got an hour. So I'm not going to waste time making promises, but I would like to know who here is in the room. Now, there's usually three types of people when I give these talks. There's the visionary entrepreneur, right? The one that's out there. So how many of those, raise your hands if you're the guy that's the visionary entrepreneur. Okay. Who's out there that's the leadership team that actually gets together and, works alongside that visionary person, the C-suite or the key leaders? Raise your hands. All right. And then where are what I call the jugglers, the people that actually make the shit happen? How many of those do we have in the room? Come on. Okay. So we're pretty evenly split. That'll help me get an idea of what to kind of focus in on as we talk. So one other question, though. How many people here are actually either in the process of their digital transformation or planning for it? Okay, good. How many people even know what it is? Okay, so I'd like to see what you guys like to get. So anybody have something they'd like to get out? And these are usually the 5 responses that are logical based on the topic. And I need somebody to raise their hand, and please give me something you'd like to walk out here with. What do you want? Ah, the last one, it's always one. Back of the presentation, yeah. Okay, we'll get to that. Anything else that somebody wants to walk out of here with? Okay, social media tool can help you keep up with all that. Anything else? All right, we'll try and get to all those and the ones that were there. Whoa! Sorry, guys, this thing's going crazy on me. So why the hell should you listen to me? What do I know? Well, I can tell you this much. We've been around for 20 years. We've been recognized, like you mentioned before, all over the country as being leaders in the digital area as well as traditional advertising. And through that experience, we've actually run into what most people think of us is, I like to call it the before and after, right? We're going to make people look pretty, right? Make them look like the best they can look. Here's one there. Somebody who's with us. And this is an interesting one because anybody here know DPIS? Raise your hand if you know DPIS, right? It was Dale Phillips Inspection Services. Okay, good company. Now they grew and grew and grew, and in fact, started going down a road, going national, going out to a lot of new markets, and they thought about changing their name. And this is one of those crazy, weird things that kind of happened. But at about 3 a.m., I don't know, maybe it was the Thai food I had the night before, something struck me, and that was that their primary purpose is to do what? Make the division president smile. If they make the division president smile, they win. So that's what's become their main one of their main themes. Division president is smiling. DPIS, our name is our mission. Now, I'm singling that out only because that's one of the key things that you have to have in a digital transformation is a sense of vision that translates outside, of course, to your potential customers, but also inside, where the people inside understand this is the purpose. This is why we're here. So I'm not going to get into vision statements and go down that path. I started to, but that's a slippery slope. But you do need to keep in mind that it's more than just looking good. But that's what people think of us. Man, this thing's going crazy. Glamour shots. Anybody remember glamour shots? There's probably a few millennials in here who don't even know who the hell that is. But they were in the mall, and basically the promise they made was you come in, we're going to make you up, make you look as good as you can look. Now, of course, this was big in the 90s, so that's why you got that big hair there, right? How about that? But the problem is sometimes it could go really wrong. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I look at that cat. That cat looks more scared than probably the people were that he shared that photo with, right? I mean, look at the cat's face. And I'm definitely betting that the photographer that took this picture did not expect her to pick that outfit. And I don't think she looks too comfortable either in that one. She's like, I don't know, you know. No words. I mean, dude, you look great. Love that you're holding your baby. Nice, right? So basically, what happened for us is that's who everybody thought of us, and that's kind of who we were. We designed ads, we did websites, we did all kinds of things. But about 2012, after this little dude changed the world we live in, and it really took hold, all of a sudden this whole digital thing started overwhelming. And we were already kind of deep in it, but by 2016, okay, this is where we actually got recognized twice as a Google All-Star, which was 100 companies in the world were picked and got taken to Google headquarters. And you want to talk about mind-blowing? I mean, honestly, you can't believe the facilities and the people and the organization and the systems. And that kind of changed things. And we're a family-owned company. My wife and I own it. And we were there, and we walked away going, this is inspiring. And about that time, a few months later, one of our clients came to us, who was one of the largest server technology providers. HP told him, you've got to implement Salesforce and Pardot. And you guys seem to know this, like internet stuff. Can you help us? And, well, we have good developers, so we did. But if you look at the little headache, that was from trying to get the salespeople to actually use the flippin' CRM, or actually get the management team to get on board with, we've got to systemize the email marketing channels. And we kept going and going and going, and we did our best, and it went well. I mean, HP said, you guys are great. I'm looking at going, we're not even touching the surface of what this can do. And so, but we figured out, like, I bet a lot of you might have had a system, had some failure, and you blamed it on the system. That's a bad software. It's the software. That's what we did. We went out and we explored. I mean, I joke that we had $100,000 worth of time on free trials with every solution you can imagine. Good ones, bad ones, because we were thinking it was the software. And what we found was, it really wasn't. It really wasn't the software. It was the people. It was the processes. It was the commitment. And so after all this effort and time, we end up over here. My head's going to explode because we're wasting money on all this stuff. And a guy named Dan Tyre, who is considered the father of inbound marketing. Does anybody know what inbound marketing is? Okay, that's where you do content to draw people to your website. It's primarily SEO driven and also, lead acquisition driven. So that's where he came to us. We got to meet him through HubSpot, and he kind of helped us channel some of the efforts and put tools in place and make it about the people and the decisions and not just about the tools. Okay? And by later 2019, we'd only been in HubSpot for a little over a year and a half. We were actually we were rated by their internal operations as the #1 implementer for HubSpot in 2019, fourth quarter. So I'm saying all that because you can hopefully believe the fact that we've got some pain. We've been there. We've tried and failed and tried and failed. And, maybe our hindsight can be a little foresight for you, because the digital behaviors are where it all comes about. Where you get insight into not only what your customers are doing, but also with what your internal people are doing. So I'm running around trying to get our team to do their best to get this whole thing going. And Marlene was one of our lead designers. And I went back to visit her, and she reminded me that I used to come back there all the time and go, guys, this is some awesome shit. That looks great. But is it going to make shit happen? And apparently I said that often enough that she came out and had gone to Amazon and found these wristbands that say make shit happen. And I looked and I go, where did you get those? And she says, oh, Amazon. See, they've got them on too. And I see 4 of our other people wearing these wristbands. And I'm like, that's it. To hell with our old vision statement. Our new vision statement is make shit happen. Okay? We believe in making shit happen, not just making shit. Okay? Because that's what people do. A lot of people that do what we do, They make websites, they make ads, they make stuff, as he said. I say shit. But, you know, in the end, it just drug us deeper into the vortex of digital transformation. Because now our brand promise is we're actually going to create what you need to have happen. The challenge is, most of the time, we need your cooperation to do it. And that's where the struggles happen. So I want to give you some tips here today where our hindsight can be your foresight as you go forward. Okay? So, come on now. Hindsight here that'll blow your mind. So probably very few people, I doubt anyone really knows who this amazing human being is. But he won the Turing Award, the Nobel Prize, and he is kind of one of the fathers of artificial intelligence. And what's interesting is, in 1971, 50 years ago, he says there is, so much information now that we have TV. There's so much out there that people are trying to cope with that there is a scarcity, a poverty of attention. 50 years ago? What about now? What do you think the current situation is? Right? I mean, come on, baby. Anybody here feel like they need to get people's attention more? Yeah. Your employees, certainly your customers and prospects. So the biggest challenge is everybody that's walking around today has the world in their hands. That little phone right there connects them to anything they want to know. My son, 13 years old, about 2 years ago, I asked him if he knew something. He says, hang on a minute. Siri, what's that? Why do I need to know what the answer is? Siri's going to tell me. Think about that, guys. So, you know, when everybody's got every bit of information out there that they could ever want, that includes the products and services you're selling, right? So how is that? How are you going to leverage that kind of knowledge base? So I want to suggest to you guys right now that the real, like, currency or whatever you want to call it, our world values is attention. Now think about that for a minute. Think about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Their valuations are stupid. Why? They're not making anything. They're actually using other people's shit to get that valuation, right? So what is the world, this economy value? Attention. So think about that. And then think about this. This is in 2019. Nielsen Insights found that the average person had 6,000 to 10,000 appeals a day hitting you. I mean, it's no wonder. This is what our brains feel like. Want to explode. That's why we need things to, you know, stop the spam, stop the robocalls, stop the this, stop the that. So in that context, right, you have a pandemic come along where, you know, it's tried to stop everything. But it also makes people more dependent on their computers, right? You got salespeople running around trying to sell without a handshake. Changing people's minds. It's a little harder, right? You got, 74%, almost 3 out of 4 professionals now say they expect to be able to work remote. So for you entrepreneurs and leaders, you got to reconcile all this stuff, right? So, not to make you even more afraid, I know I seem like I'm just building this whole terrible thing, but you need to be aware of also what's going on with the technological world right now, because we're at a tipping point. Does anybody here know what Moore's Law is? Okay, well, Moore's Law was written years ago, and the scientists basically said that every year the capacity of semiconductors would double. And that went on for decades. That's why computers got faster and faster. Well, what's going on right now is even going to be exponentially more serious. You have blockchain, which is more than just cryptocurrency. It's actually a way to control information that's fluid, that's fast. Imagine closing on a house in a day. Okay? Sorry, title companies, if you're in this room. You know, and then you've got quantum computing. Quantum computing is not only, you know, real, it's growing faster and faster right now. Now, they're massively faster than the conventional computer. They're very difficult to build. and it's very hard to program them. But they just came up with a 3D chip, and not to get too techie on you, but the 3D chip changes everything, because right now, all of the algorithms are on what's a 2D plane. Suddenly we're going to be in a three-dimensional plane where everything could be considered. And what that does is it allows, when they, like Google just came out with their perceiver algorithm, and that algorithm is allowing these supercomputers to think faster with less data. Okay? Now where I'm headed with this is, imagine this. The current quantum computer that Google's using solved a huge complex problem in a test in 200 seconds. The fastest supercomputer in the world that exists, IBM's, what is it called? Shoot, I can't even think of it. I got to see it. Summit, that's right. Damn, brain fart. Take 10,000 years for it to solve that same problem. That's 158 million times faster. So now you got faster than you can even imagine computers with software that takes less data to do faster. You get where I'm going. So this whole Internet of Things that you guys are starting to deal with, it's just going to go faster. I can tell you, I was one of those guys. There was about 1 million devices connected to the Internet in 1992. That number in 2020 was over 50 billion. And look where that arrow's going, right? So it's not that this is a neat new little trick that people want to have their smart home. It's that everything we have is going to be even more connected in the future. So where does this put you, right? That's really the question. Well, the people you're looking to probably are these millennials, some of them in the room, right? Been brought up through technology. What's interesting, though, is the oldest millennials right now are turning 40. Think about that. Now, that's the biggest chunk of population in our history, is turning 40. Prime time, leadership time, prime time, engagement time. These are your people you need to figure out how to work with and engage to get this vision real. Some of us older guys might say, is this the end of the world as we know it? And it may feel like that. But, come on, baby. You also could see it as a really cool dawn of a new age, empowering age. But the reality check is going to be, it's up to you. Are you going to embrace digital transformation, embrace making your operations better, or are you going to sit back and, I would venture to say probably if you could go to the top executives in chairs at Walmart, they probably wish they'd embraced the web 5 years earlier, 10 years earlier, maybe. Most powerful retail company in the world. Okay, what about some of the other ones who never really made it? Toys R Us, right? Sears. All these people thought it was going to stay the same. It's not. And I'm not saying it to scare you, I'm just saying it to be real, right? So I was going to leave this spot to have you guys ask questions, because I'm throwing a lot at you fast. So does anybody have any questions? A lot of blank stares. All right, I'm going to keep moving then. So let's talk AI, because that's usually what everybody thinks. So my first question I want you guys to answer is, if you think of AI, what movie comes to mind? Who? Terminator. I knew it. Yeah, Terminator's always the one. That's the dark side of AI, right? Skynet's going to come and get rid of us little viruses. Yeah, well, I'd like you to consider the T-1000 for a minute and look at its purposefulness, the upgraded version of the Terminator. It morphs itself into what it needs to have and what it's going to be. You blow it up, it just comes back together. So my suggestion is that's where that vision statement, and you as leaders have to bring your organizations to where you're really bringing the people in your organization along with you. They've got to have buy-in. And that's why I would suggest attraction importance be your interpretation of AI. Because if you don't attract not only your current team members, but your vendors and even your customers believe in you, you're going to have a struggle. And the technology only is going to do a part of it. I mean, I think Steve Jobs is one of the most brilliant men that's ever lived, personally. Certainly he's changed our world as much as any. And out of his own words, and he's not always been known to be a people person. If anybody knows his history, He was sometimes an asshole, okay? But he knew enough to know how to get what he needed. And that was that the magic was in the people and giving them the tools. So, you know, this is the current situation of what's going on with digital transformation. That's how much money is going to be spent. When you see a world spend those kinds of numbers, you know it values this situation. So you've got to start to step back and re-look at what are we doing? How are we going to make ourselves better? So to answer the question that we started out a little while ago is, what is digital transformation? This is the clinical definition, right? Finding a way to change manual, processes and bring them into a digital world, or finding better tech solutions to solve a problem, right? I'd like to suggest it be looked at from a little different perspective. It's about serving customers and your team, okay? And if you focus it that way, you will gain competitive advantage. Or you don't do it and you'll have a disadvantage, because somebody will, right? Ask taxi drivers. How do they feel about Uber? So the other thing I'd like you to also consider, for those of you that are the business owners and leaders, is AI also can stand for automation, integration, or implementation, because that's really where you free people to do the things they should be doing, not just the same old things they're always doing that waste time. All right, so these are typically, and I usually blow right by the slide, but based on who's here, let's take a second to kind of break these down a little bit. But these are the main benefits that the organization sees, right? Because let's face it, the breakdown is in usually process, how information flows from one place to the next. And if you can get more efficient on your operations, I will say this, we've seen this with a couple companies, you see a boost in innovation. People you didn't think would have great ideas come to you, all of a sudden you've got this whole new way of approaching a problem because you gave them a little bit of room and time to think about it and get there. And ultimately, the bigger thing for the leaders is you get good information. Do you know how much time it takes to go from a lead or a suspect to a true qualified marketing lead, to a sales qualified lead, to where your salesperson's engaged with them, to where you put out a proposal, to where that person accepts or negotiates the proposal? Do you know right now what the average time is? Now, do you know what the average time is for every one of your salespeople? If you don't, you can with the right tools, right? That's actually some pretty basic stuff. But unless you have all of your tools talking to each other, then it's not going to happen. So this is what work life looks like now for some of you that haven't really embraced tech, right? There's a lot of processes. There's all kinds of risk of people putting shit in wrong, right? There's not the best channels of communications, from sales to service to operations to fulfillment to accounting. All of those parts. You may have an ERP solution and you may have a separate CRM, and you don't really have any marketing animation. Your marketing's done through MailChimp and maybe some other sales. Pick any number of different little tools, but none of them talk to each other. Does that sound like anybody in this room's situation? Okay. Well, that's the problem, because it leaves you where you can't do, sorry, I didn't mean to bump that. It leaves you where the bottom right says, if you put these things in the right place, that's where you get to where you're doing the things you love. Because you're not stuck doing all that data entry. You're not stuck trying to make sure somebody got done what they were supposed to get done. The systems are keeping up as checks and balances. And this may sound like, yeah, we've tried that, but it don't work. We can't do it. We don't have time. I'm just trying to inspire you that you do, and there's tools, and maybe you just need some help. And it doesn't have to necessarily be anybody like us. There's different people that can help you with different parts of the problem. But just accept that identify the issues that are underlying. So this would be the biggest part, is to become a magnet to the people in your organization. And the only way you do that is to have the clear vision, to consistently communicate it, and to involve them. They've got to be a part of this equation all along the way. And so we suggest you develop what is essentially first step. If you don't have a real good vision statement, put a vision team together and include people in all aspects of your business and all personalities. We don't just want all the people that are going to, feel the same way. We got to get all the different people involved. Your brand is not your logo. Your logo is a component, but if I say Nike, some of you may think the swoosh, more of you think Michael Jordan, right? The older ones of us, others LeBron, Kobe, whatever the star is of the day, right? But your brand actually has more influence internally than you realize. It's critical to your success. People will kill for a brand they believe in. Ask somebody who works at Starbucks. They're not making a lot of money, but they believe in the purpose, right? They believe it's a cool place. They have a lot of different things. All those intangibles are part of the brand. So do a good evaluation of what are you really putting out there, and what are people thinking about you, okay? Because the reality check is your brand can do one of two things. It can attract or it can repel. That's the only two things that are going to happen. So my suggestion is let's attract, right? Let's figure out what people want and care about and make that out there. And then as far as does digital transformation give you headaches? The reason I said maybe is because I know it does, right? We've had them. But the reality check that you got to leave here today with is no pain, no gain. Be committed, because how well you serve your people and how well you serve your customers in a digital environment is the best way to gain advantage. How many people right now are on their computer or phone? I'm not trying to call you out because I see you, but it's impossible to get away from it. And you want the same experience you have with your favorite apps from your vendors or from your providers. I mean, that's the thing. Now, you may not be able to do all of it. Pick it off. And I'm going to give you a couple ways to keep from getting overwhelmed. So these are where I would recommend starting. 5 key things you've got to really focus in on. And they're not necessarily in the order, because certain businesses have different problems. But you got to get your marketing right. And marketing is more important than it's ever been. And I'm not saying that because I'm a marketing guy, because I'm more than a marketing guy. We do all kinds of things. But the reality check is, since everybody has all the information, they kind of don't need your sales guy until they're ready to buy. I mean, stats out there show 70% of the buy decision in a B2B environment is done before they ever contact you. So marketing and sales has kind of, and marketing automation will enable you to do a better job of gauging, getting insights to what these people are actually doing. I'm not talking about how many visitors are on your website. I'm talking about, somebody's a prospect. Wouldn't you like to know when they go visit that page on that product that you have? Wouldn't you like to get a notification on your phone that that guy that ghosted 6 months ago just went back and visited again, or just opened up that email again? That's simple stuff, but it's powerful stuff. Now, I also don't recommend you call them like in the next 10 minutes and say, hey, Joe, I saw you're looking at my page. That's creepy. But you certainly can send them a quick email out of the blue, right, with some other information that might be about that product or something else. So either you have that kind of tool working for you, or you don't. And if you're in especially the services business, working with consumers, and you deal with volume, boy, you better have this stuff, because somebody will, okay? But the key in it, it's got to be tied in to a modern CRM. And I'm not talking Outlook, okay? Outlook is not a CRM, okay? Same thing goes with your sales automation. Now, the difference between marketing automation and sales automation is just the intentionality, okay? Marketing, we're trying to reach and serve and tell them about all the different little things and find out what they really care about, right? Sales is when, okay, now we're engaging and we're nurturing. We're trying to make sure I give you what you need to make a good decision. The more automated that can be, the better you're going to perform. Simple as that. The other part is the management side. With sales automation software, you know what's going on. You have meaningful forecasts, right? I mean, no offense, I was in the sales side for 17 years in the media business, and I managed, like, across the United States, about 60 salespeople. I knew they were giving me bullshit numbers when they gave me their forecast. The only reason I got their forecast was so I had some kind of number to hold them accountable. I knew some people were better at it than others, which was about 10%. It wasn't that 80-20 rule. But, the thing about data is data can take the murkiness away, right? It can help you really see the cycle times and know it. You can have a dashboard that tells you the answer, okay? So I'm not going too far down that rabbit hole, but service is also important. And if anybody here doesn't think that their current customer is the most important customer in the world, then you're wrong. They're the ones who are your gateway to your business. And you need to be able to serve them the way they want to be served. And there's all kinds of solutions, and I'm going to show you a few in a minute. And before I lose everybody here, I'm going to jump right past the other three because we're all familiar with what essentially amounts to things like Slack or Teams or any of these communication formats that beat the shit out of email. Email's a 25-year-old technology, okay? Slack, Teams, that's real world now. You know, anybody here know what Slack stands for? Oh man, I had a big prize if somebody got that right. Searchable log of all communication and knowledge. And the reason it's called that is because at any given time, you could put it in a little search window and find that file that somebody sent to you yesterday. You're not like going to Outlook and going, oh, what was that person that sent me that? Oh yeah, okay, let me put their name in. Okay, I got all the, slow and a waste of time, man. Better ways to do it, okay? So, to clarify what a modern CRM is it's intuitive, okay? It can do things for people that they don't have to enter every time. Somebody wants to give me their business card after this, and I will send you information from this presentation and others, and I'm going to be able to do it by taking your card, take a picture, open it, make sure all the information's correct, click on template, pick it, and hit send from my phone, okay? Now that's sales automation, that's sales enablement, right? And that's what a good CRM does. But the key in it is it's also got to track not just the people, it's got to track their behavior. So what are they doing on your website? What are they doing with your emails? What are they doing, you know, with any digital content that you have them download? How much time are they spending? And when are those things happening are all things that modern CRM give you. And that's really where there's a fine line because hang on, I'll show you guys in a second here. One thing I will say about CRM, you know what the best part of a modern CRM is? It does things for them, so they'll actually use it. Raise your hands if you have issues with salespeople, marketing people, or service people using your CRM. Oh, I think there's some people fudging, or they don't have a CRM, because that's the biggest challenge. And where it stops is it's not doing enough for them. They just think it's Big Brother watching me, and I'm going to do the least I possibly can do, and oh yeah, I'll get that done. The only way, if you're going to approach it from that way, that you can make sure they use it, is you only pay them commission if it's in the CRM. That'll get salespeople to do it. You know, I hate doing it that way, but that's what I've seen from other businesses. The ones that say that will get the information in there. And it's not just because you want to have it in there, you want to have it so you can use it, so you can figure out those things like the timeline, the forecast, other things. If it's not in your CRM, then you really can't leverage the power of it, right? So, this is from 2020. This is how many software solutions there are right now to help you do all this stuff. It started out as the 5,000. It's now up to 8,000, and I bet it's more. And these are accredited apps. These are not just some dude who made his own CRM. These are people that are out there competing. So I know you guys can't ferret through all that. I tried to break this down into 5 categories. So these are the top players, and if you want to go and download the presentation, you can also get a link to specific reviews of each one of these different solutions. And these are basically an amalgamation of PC Magazine, G2 Crowd, and me, from my experience of working with them and seeing people use them. And, you know, me's probably the littlest part. But, you know, and if you want, you're going to be able to get this presentation, so you don't have to worry about taking pictures and all that. It's really easy to do. I'll give you a way to get it when we're done. The common thread with all of these, though, is you need to be able to connect them. That's why these are the best, because these connect with each other well, most of them, not all of them. Some are better than others, okay? So, again, a lot of information. Any questions? Yes? That's a good claim that's not true. Okay, but the reality check is it does what we thought was a CRM in 2000. So ACT, anybody ever use ACT? You know, it does what ACT would do. But the problem is that you have to manually build a lot of different connections, which have to be going into some kind of a repository to accept the data and make it usable. And that's where those fail, because they don't know how to track. You can't hook them up to Google Analytics and track what people are doing on your website so that you know Joe Blow was looking at this page doing this thing. And if they can't do that, then you're at a disadvantage. That's the reality. So now they're really good maybe because they've already been set up with all the property fields and all the maybe even some workflows that are built around the industries. And that's why people gravitate to the ERP solution is going to be my CRM. But it will fail long term because of the lack of insight that it really provides. It can provide insight to your operation guy to a point, but it'll even fail there if it's not connected to some of these other service systems. So if your service system isn't deep involved in your ERP, then you really don't know. Who here has ever called customer service and had to tell your story more than once? If anybody didn't raise their hand, I know you're a liar. That's one of my personal peeves. If I got to sit there forever on hold and then answer your frickin' questions and then have to tell the next person and the next person, I am not delighted, okay? And that's the dilemma. So now, you can't abandon your technology, right? So you got to figure out ways to get through this path. And I'm going to get right now in a minute to the best way to kind of stage. But I hope that answers your question. Saw somebody else. Yes, and I'll show you one of them. There's a number of them, but the one we'll use the most is called Zapier. Okay, and you have to have a web-based, software as a service platform that allows APIs. Okay, and believe me, those are the magic for you. And by the way, he just got a gift because he asked a question, so we like to encourage questions. Okay, so did he. Okay, any other questions before we move on? Well, that's a good point, and I'm going to just jump right there to what the heck should you do? Somebody asked me originally about what's it going to cost, right? For a small to medium-sized business, the dilemma becomes, I have a limited budget. What can I do or what can I do? I can't give you an answer because I don't know how many customers you have, what space you're in. There's not a magic number. There's no silver bullet to any of this. What it is a conviction and a sweat. You got to jump into this. You got to say, I'm going to make it better, right? And if you're not prepared to do that, then you're on that side that's just going to say, we hope it doesn't happen soon, which is a reality check, right? What's the number one thing most people do when they're overwhelmed? Somebody say nothing? Break. Who said nothing? Break. Okay, get her a prize. They do nothing. They have a current solution. They're not going to get in trouble for not doing it, so I'm going to do nothing. And if you're in B2B, that's your biggest adversary by far. I don't want to change. I'm going to stick with what I got. The thing I wanted to share on the second point is this. This is a global study that was done across the basis, big companies, little companies. 92% of the budget from year to year is the same. So that means only 8% is variable. Hate to say this, that's not enough. Not just enough for doing this, but for your business. People have to do a better job of looking at what are we really doing here. It can't be October when you're doing your budget meetings and going, well, we spent $1 million last year. Well, I don't want to spend as much. Let's spend 900. Or in this case, 920. Right? That's not the way. Dig into this, and you're going to have to find some money because it's not free. But you can do a lot of it yourself. You can do a lot of it with some help, like just some key guidance at the beginning. Onboarding is key. And I'm going to go through the top 10 reasons or things right now that you should do in the process. So I hope this answers your question, Lisa. Number one, if it doesn't touch the customer, don't start there. Okay? And the reason is, one of the Number one reasons that like 70% of digital transformations fail is because they lose momentum, because they don't show enough ROI, because they're expensive. Well, if it doesn't touch the customer, you're never going to have any evidence that it's working. So start out with things you can do that help your customers, things that will show up in your bottom line. Build momentum that way. It's too easy to go, hey, if we just had a way to fix how we, do inspections and cut, an hour out of the time that it takes, man, that would be huge money for us. You may still want to do that, but I don't think that's the best place to start as far as your digital transformation. So look at the things that how you interact with your customers and your prospects and how you can facilitate them having a better experience. Number two, do not rely on your existing IT structure to be the ones to lead this. This is one of the bigger failings that we've seen over and over again, because guess why? Anybody have an idea? I want to see if somebody's got the answer to this one. Go ahead. They're afraid they'll lose their job. And that's really the driver. The fact is, you're asking them to say, I didn't recommend the right things. Somehow I'm not giving you what you need. Now, they'll never say that because they would not want to, but the reality is that's what you're kind of putting in the back of their subconscious mind is, I don't know what I'm doing. So you need to establish somebody that's an outsider that can help you with the IT component as it relates to your transformation. So somebody that's an expert in bringing a CRM can help you bring in the right plan for your ERP situation, but you don't fix the ERP. You start fixing how you're manifesting it with serving your customers is the solution, okay? Number three, what we kind of talked about before. You're not really changing your budget. Yeah, we're gonna try this software out, see if it works. We can get like $49 a person licensing for like just the important people. We don't want to do everybody because I don't want to spend all that money. Well, you know what? You just plan to fail, right? Evaluate the tools and implement them as hard as you can. Get some help from people who know the tools, right? And then give yourself a chance for success. The next one is one of my favorites because you'd be surprised how quickly this happens. At some point, because the executive leadership that started this whole process isn't having a great return on investment, is painful, they haven't put together a team that is really on board with this underneath them that can really implement it, they lose interest. There's other things that got bigger ROI. They got to report to stockholders, or they got to report to the owner, or they got to report just to their wife. Are we doing the right thing? So it's very quick to happen. 6 months is about the attention span of an executive leader on this kind of a program. It doesn't happen in 6 months. This is on forever. Okay, this is just the real world we live in from now on. All right, next is, and this kind of is a corollary to that, because if the executive leader loses vision, guess who else loses vision? The whole organization, right? And they lose sight of it. So you got to make sure this is something that's meaningful to you and to your organization. Come on now. There we go. And also we have seen where you're doing too much too soon. Baby steps, right? One of my favorite movies. Anybody know what movie that is? It's for a prize. Baby Steps. Nobody? I know you know. No, you're close though. What about Bob? There we go. Have a winner in the back, Tasha. Right here in the green shirt. What about Bob? That's one of my favorite movies. Anyways, the doing too much too soon's corollary is not doing enough. And really, it's a fine line between the two. So, doing too much too soon is usually a problem of too many softwares you're trying to do at once. Pick a problem, solve that problem. Do it as well as you can with the tools you have and the ones you're integrating, and then check box to the next one. And I'm going to give you a book and a system tool that can help you do it and stay on track. And I have no idea how I'm doing on time. Okay, I got about 10 minutes, so we're going to go fast. Last is that you need to have a real team that has empowerment. It can't just be two people, the IT guy and the marketing guy, okay? Can't be the owner and the marketing person who's 4 years out of college, right, and seems to have some good digital skills. You got to, I mean, depending upon your organization, if there's only 4 of you, that's who it's got to be. But if you have a team, build a team to handle this, right, and involve them. And then, of course, you don't emphasize training enough. Nobody really wants to go through training. This has been probably painful for some of you, but I hope at least you'll walk out today with that crazy son of a bitch made me really frustrated, and I'm going to have to look into this more, because that's my objective, if you haven't figured that out. And then last, you got to include all the right stakeholders. If you've got an owner who's a silent owner, who's not tech savvy, who doesn't know even really what digital means, you can't not involve them. Okay? You got to find a way, and chances are you get somebody who's on the outside that's helping you to work with that person to understand, because I guarantee they've dealt with it. You're not going to have any credibility to that person about this subject. So get that help from somebody who does, is my suggestion. So did that answer your question, Lisa? Good. So let me just show you a little bit about what success actually can look like. Is there anybody here who knows Texas Gas? A few of you? Smart folks. Smart folks. Now, you may not like them as far as the gas provider utility thing. I can't get into that, okay? But I can tell you what they figured out was pretty amazing, and that's that, God damn it, we're digging these holes. What if we throw some fiber in them some bitches and become in the fiber business? Pretty good idea. But that's not enough. You got to execute it. So they have a very smart guy who's the leader of the company, comes from a different background, and he worked with us and some other people to basically take this didn't exist company and put them out there and do it right from the beginning, okay? So their focus were on these technologies to do everything from, you know, get out in the field with the operation people, tie that operational person who's out there on site, scan the little barcode that's on the router. That sends a notification to somebody in the service side that, okay, that's happened. We have workflows in the background that say then, okay, we send out an email to the customer, you're all ready for move-in. All this stuff happening in an automated way, which delights the customer. And frankly, they're competing with some big companies. I mean, they're competing with AT&T, Comcast, but like I tell them all the time, I don't think anybody likes them, so your bar is pretty low, you know. So, but the other person that really delights is their shareholders, okay? Because now they have less people, they're doing more, and they're growing, and they're keeping people happy, and they're not gonna do this thing where they start to drown because they're growing so fast, right? So this is just a quick look, and you're not gonna be able to see this, but it's in what you can download really closely. But up on the left-hand side, those are the workflows that sit in the background and do all those things I just described. In the middle there is the kind of dashboard that their sales manager can see in real time what's going down every day with the sales and pipeline and who's doing what and how are we doing overall. And on the far end there, I'm just going as fast as I can to make my time limit, is an actual workflow. And what I'd like to leave you with, for those of you that are already doing your digital transformation, keep it simple, smarty. Because you don't need workflows that solve the whole problem. You need the workflow that solves this problem that goes to a different workflow. So don't build this big-ass, massive thing that nobody can understand. Build a lot of little things nobody understands. And then it'll be easier to fix it when it goes wrong. So there's your tip for that. So these guys who didn't exist, since the beginning of this year, $168 million. In their closed won category, in their deals. This is taken from last Friday. What about that? Now, I'd say that looks like a bright horizon, right? So I'll share this book with you. All this stuff comes down to habits, like everything we do, right? And if we don't develop the right habits, we'll never change things. So I'm going to give out, we gave out, come on, baby, this little sheet. It's a gift to you. That is 30 days worth of a transformation of you, not digital, but of you, because that's where it starts. And you know, it's basically to get you to the right place. Whether you're the leader of the organization or you're just the leader of your household, okay? What you want to do is take this in the morning, you look at your day, Come on, baby. Oh, damn. Look at me. Can't even work my own technology. So it starts at the top with, I will be thankful for to somebody. Okay? So pick somebody that's a vendor, person in your organization, whatever. Okay? Customer. It's a great one. And who are you going to thank today? And how are you going to thank them and what for? And I would suggest what you're thanking them for, especially if it's employees, but it could be customers, are in alignment with your core values, assuming you have them, right? So this is a tip, side tip. These are our core values, and those are actually little cards that we give out when someone exemplifies that core value. Now, most people talk about their core values twice a year. In some kind of big meeting with everybody, right? You bring it up, you bring up your vision statement. But I can tell you right now, all my people can tell me what my vision statement is. It's not hard, though. Make shit happen. But they also know what our 5 core values are, because we're seeing them do something where they show respect. And we put their name on the front, and on the back we write them a little note. So that's just a tip. You could do it. You don't have to do it, but I'm going to tell you, it works. Our people know what our values are, and we hire and fire by them. Best decisions we ever make. The second section there is, what are the issues? Because it's not the problem, it's the issue. There's an issue behind the problem. What's the issue I'm going to deal with today, and how can I simplify something in what I do? Whether you're a business owner or just in your everyday life. The next section is you figuring out, where do you really need to put your energy? So what do I do great that also has great value, right? That I like doing. I love doing it. Put that on the left. On the right, put the things that you're good at, right? And you like doing. You know, you kind of, it's all right. What down the bottom here, don't like doing, but I'm good at it. And unfortunately, that's where people spend a lot of their time, right? And last, what am I not good at? What shouldn't I be doing? There's things you have to do sometimes. Well, then you take that and go to the last section. After you've taken it, takes 5 minutes once you get good at it, maybe 10. Bottom section, take those things that are in the top 2 quadrants, put them on the left. That's your must do today. And make sure those things get ticked off. On the right, put all the others. Now, you may not delegate all of them. You may do one of them. But start to think about, can I delegate those things? And that wasn't why you got here, but you guys took time to listen to me jabber. So I want to give you something, hopefully, and I'm going to ask you a favor. If anybody here uses this for 30 days, let me know how it went. Let me know what happens, okay? So the reality check is great things take new habits. And that hopefully will help you get there. So these are your must-dos when you leave here. If you're going to try and do transformation, make sure that you attract. Get the attraction thing going for you. Make sure it's focused on delighting your customers. Build buy-in. You got to get buy-in. If you don't have buy-in, it ain't going to happen, right? And then figure out how you can start to connect your various systems, whether it's your ERP to something, but start as an objective of, we're going to connect these two to get our way on the way and then move on. So get help. The help I've gotten over the years, I've been in this thing called Vistage for over 15 years. Anybody here know Vistage, and anybody involved? Anybody here a Vistage member? Wow, okay. Vistage is a largest worldwide organization that has peer groups for CEOs and top executives. And basically you have 16 or 18 non-competing companies get together once a month, and you go and you're all having the same kind of problems because you're all about the same size, and you talk about each other's businesses, you share financials, and you hear problems that are just like the problems you're having. I got to tell you, it's powerful. So if you haven't looked at it, check out Vistage. It can really help. And then if you haven't read these 2 books, whether you're an entrepreneur or not, if you're an entrepreneur, anybody here read The E-Myth? Raise your hands. Are you baking pies? Good. That's awesome. The right answer. Okay. Traction, which, anybody here read Traction? Do you guys do it? Awesome. Studley, man. How good is Traction? Okay. It's not coming from me. That is a transformative operating system, which let me just say this for sure. Digital transformation will reveal every one of your weaknesses. And the EOS is a great system to give you ways to basically get the 6 key elements, as it describes it, of your business working for you, and tools to actually go in the right direction. Little forms that can help you, and it's just, you get so much for so little. It's like a $12 book. Now, you're not going to get it all from the book by yourself. You're probably going to want to get some help. But let me tell you, if you're going through it, it's very, very, very powerful. So if you want this presentation or parts of it, the parts of it that matter, not all the junk about me, then you can send me an email, steiner@ontargetmarketing.com, ontargetagency.com. And I have business cards over there. Happily welcome to just grab a card. If you want to leave a card, I'm happy to send you some links to some other information. You just put on your card what you're interested in, and I've got all kinds of tools and other options. You can also go, there's a landing page that's just on our website, ontargetagency.com/Sunbelt2021. So I guess now the only thing left is you need to go make some shit happen. Okay? So any questions? Any other questions? Okay, you can say applause, that's fine. We'll cut it off. Questions? Thank you, guys.